G'day, punters. Welcome to another episode of the Footy Form Guide podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Walley. I'm in the studio, and I'm joined, as always, by my good mate, Harro, who is living it up in Bali. How are you, mate?
Not too bad, mate. It's bright and early here, so that I'm outside recording in case the family wakes up. I've come out and found myself a little corner to hide in.
Mate, fantastic. It looks like absolute heaven over there. All going well?
All going well, mate. Yeah, we've been having a good time. So it's all about the kids at the moment, making sure they're having fun. So yeah, plenty of time in the pool, at the beach, all the sort of normal holiday sort of activities, mate. It's going really well.
Few bin tanks?
Yes, mate. A few bin tanks, and I've got my good mate Bobby over here, who's a listener to the show. He loves it, and
Sure
so
is.
we've been able to sneak off and have a few, which has been good fun.
Love that, mate. Big hi to Bobby. All right, mate, we're going to get stuck in. Punting never sleeps. We know that. So let's talk about the highlights and lowlights of the last round.
Yep. So the best bet, Wally, that was the Crows, and I don't think you get sort of an easier watch than that when they're what were they 7 goals up to nothing in the first 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and they put that to bed early, and that was just a beautiful watch. Didn't have to stress at all over that one. So the best bet's going well, mate. We've been getting on a bit of a run there now, so which is pleasing. One here, Wally, which I wanted to talk about was I tipped up the over total points in the Port versus Swans game, and I was really happy with this because I thought to myself the easy thing to do would have just been go. It's a Port game. They're 11-1 on the under. We'll just play the Port unders again. But and so when I was actually able to work out that I think it's going to go over, you're not only picking up a winning bet, but you're probably saving yourself a losing bet by just avoiding lazy thinking in that one. And so I was really happy with that. We also had the over total points in the Lions versus Tigers. We had a $6.50 SGM on X, which was great. And we had a few nice winners in the Discord too, mate. We had Joel Fitzgerald, the first gamer for Melbourne, to get 24 disposals. That was paying $4. So that was a really nice one for the punters in there as well, mate.
Yeah, very good, mate. I'll tell you what, that was our equivalent of an 8-point game, that Port Adelaide one, wasn't it? We didn't just win, we didn't lose.
Yep.
We won't go into it now, but I'm very interested to see, because guess what? I'm interested to hear and see your thoughts about this, because the line, I thought maybe now the Port have covered this line and go back out. Their line's still really low this week against Collingwood, but we'll come to that. Mate, what did we miss? What were the lowlights?
Actually, when I had to listen back to the pod, there was only a couple in there. The one that sort of stung me a little bit was the over total points in the Cats versus Suns game, and that lost. Yet it had 50 scoring shots. That's just that they kicked 23 goals, 27, and so that was the one that bit me, Wally. And other than that, it was a pretty positive week.
Yep, absolutely, mate. Sure was. All right. Now, before we get into it, you mentioned the Discord there. If you want to get involved in the Discord, there's plenty that goes in there. The pod comes out a little earlier. We do a post-teams pod on a Friday morning. So on a Friday morning, you'll get Harrow's thoughts on any changes to bets after teams have been announced and just any new information. Really, it's a really good listen, that one. Plus, we'll just do some extra bets and whatnot. We still look after all of our podcast listeners. You're still getting the pod. Harrow still put some SGMs out on X, so that happens. Discord is all extra, so that's the benefit of it. It's pinned to our Twitter page. It's on our Insta. It couldn't be easier. Follow the steps there. There's also, if you haven't used Discord, because you have to go through Patreon and have a Discord account, there's a step-by-step guide of how to do that, and you just follow that. And it should be simple. And then we're available if you need anything. We try and keep across most social and that as we can, and the different channels. So hit us up there. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube but you're not subscribing, make sure you're subscribing so you're getting all the information up to date. And if you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening and you want to watch, well, now it's on YouTube. Mate, I've kept my selection table this week very simple, because it's 1 and 1. All right. I got one in and I got one out because they're both, for me, big. The one in is simple. Sunday is a day of sport and supporting sport and just like taking it all in is about as good as it gets. These we occasionally get them, but these massive days of sport, when they hit incredibly well. And Sunday was a huge in for me. So the New York Knicks broke a huge drought and secured the NBA Finals. I mean, then the city went fucking nuts and tore itself apart, but that's okay. That's, they celebrate differently. It was what happened to New York is what I thought could happen to Richmond in 2017, and it got close, but it didn't quite get there. In terms of the celebrations, that is. Then we had that into the Socceroos beating Turkey 2-0, which has to be. I thought about this, Harro. Look, I know it's not our sport as such, but I've watched a fair bit of football over the years, and it's got to be close to. Maybe it's the best win we've ever had. I don't know. Turkey, quality opposition and all of that. But the World Cup, it was just incredible to be a part of. 2 genuine goals scored, all of that. Then catching the back half of the Saints game was actually a ripping game. So the Saints-Giants game was a cracker. So I got a sport I love in the NBA. I think the Socceroos probably bring more people together as a nation than anyone. I think when the Socceroos play in a tournament, they would have more eyeballs on them than Australia doing the Ashes. Like it's actually insane the amount of people that get around this. It's not many people's first sport in terms of a code in this country. A lot of people play it, don't get me wrong, but AFL and NRL obviously dominate. We're a cricketing nation, all of that, but the Socceroos seems to bring people together. So to have an iconic moment in a US sport into some good quality footy, which is our game. Yeah, mate, pretty bloody good. So that was a huge day for me Sunday, and I was lucky enough to enjoy it all at a big watch party up in Sydney of all places. So I love that. But where there's good, Harry, there's bad, and this is getting to a level now. And the reason I've singled this out as the only one is I think that our players in our great game, it is getting to a point of almost too hard to know what is going to happen when they step on the footy field. Paul Curtis's suspension for a normal tackle being upheld is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I don't know what he's meant to do. Yes, we have to protect players, but do you know what? This is a contact sport. It's a tough physical game, and we are getting to a point where players are not going to actually play the game to the level they should be playing because they're so worried that someone might get knocked and then they're going to be suspended. Like we are doing a lot, and we need to keep doing more in terms of making sure CTE doesn't come into our game like it has in the States to the same level, and to make sure that we're looking after the head and to make sure there's not like long-term injuries will happen. You know that going in if you play this game, but just to minimize it, we need to do all of that. This isn't about that. Paul Curtis done nothing wrong here. Yeah. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. They better appeal this. Whether it's the umpiring or whether it's the result of the MRO or tribunal, whatever it is, our players in this game, they must not know what they're going to get week in, week out, Harro. And it does my head in.
And
Wally, it does my head in.
Especially when Frampton pole drives a bloke's head into the ground 1 week and gets off, and then Curtis just falls with the dude, just all momentum going in that direction. If one's not a suspension, then the other isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. Even then there was the one. There was a game of ours. There was a Hawks game. There was an example which was almost exactly the same, arguably with more force than Curtis, and it was nothing. So I just don't know what these players are meant to do. I don't have a dog in this fight. We're not playing against North Melbourne in the run. I don't follow North Melbourne. It doesn't affect me either way. I don't have any futures bets on Paul Curtis. I don't know what future bet you'd have on Paul Curtis, but do you know what I mean? So I literally couldn't have less of a view on whether he plays or not. So if he was out 3 weeks injured, it wouldn't even hit my radar. This is just about seeing a good young player that's playing the game in the right way is now going to miss footy because somebody happened to get injured.
Yeah.
There has to be an accidental cause, Harrow. Sometimes there's accidents that happen in this world, and there's injuries that are caused of it, and then no one needs to be punished.
Yeah.
That sometimes
Totally.
needs to happen. Anyway, that really just for me, seeing that last night, and I'm just waiting. They have to challenge, don't they?
Surely, mate. I just hate the inconsistencies of it all, and like you should have a really clear understanding of what is
Mm.
allowed and what's not allowed, and you're allowed to tackle. You know, you're allowed to tackle.
Apparently,
Yeah, or you're meant to be allowed
yeah.
to tackle. So it's a bad one, isn't it? And 3 weeks
I've
as a
seen similar
penalties.
tackling in the under nines on a Sunday morning with my boy Harrow. It's
Yeah,
it's it's fine.
yeah.
Some injuries will happen.
We
It's
are men.
okay. All right, we're going to get into some questions from social. We love this stuff.
Yeah,
First one, this is a great question. So, because this is a great discussion that's happening a lot this week after how he started the game and how he played this week. Jordan Dawson, who
oh
we've
yeah,
been a fan of for the last few years, where does he rank in the league right now? Is he not number one? And I think that you've got to be very careful because you got to remember all the other players. And there's
yeah,
two things of who would you have and how well are they playing. I think he's playing as good a footy as pretty much anyone.
yeah,
I think that on his season this season, he'd probably be a top 5 mid. I don't know if I'd take him over Heaney or Bont just yet. But
yeah.
what do you think, mate? Where is he? He's
Well,
playing incredible football.
just to be impartial and just to use the Wheelo or the Champion Data player ratings, he's the second highest rated player in the comp,
Yep.
and with only Heaney ahead of him. And I think that's pretty fair, Wally. I don't really obviously a lot when guys are so close, it comes down to a little bit of personal preference, and so you could chuck any one of about these 6 guys down as the best player in the comp right now. And for me, it's Heaney. But this
Mm.
is the group that are competing for the best player in the comp based on this year's form.
Yep.
In my opinion, it's Heaney, Dawson, Bont, Petrarca, who's come off a little bit lately, I reckon, Butters, and Pickett.
Yep.
That's
And they're
that's
your
about
best
where it
six mids.
sits. Yeah,
Do you know what else I would just say, Harrow, just on a side note, not that Luke Jackson's the other one that I think has just gone to another level and plays this almost hybrid ruck rover forward role. That I
yeah. Well,
think that if you're creating like most impactful best players, he's another one that I'd be happy to have in the discussion.
yeah,
And I'm fascinated to see what they do with the All Australian team this year. Heard Kane and Kingy talking about it, about saying, could you play 3? Could you play Gawn, Grundy, and Jackson and things like that? And I don't know. But the thing is that it's the changing of the guard is happening a little bit in the ruck stakes, and it's going to be interesting. But mate, no, that's a pretty good 6 you got there so far this season, Harrow.
yeah. No, I'm pretty happy. Well, I think the ratings are doing a really good job of it because if I was to just pick my 6, it would be pretty close to that. So it's passing the eye test for me as well.
Mm.
And yeah, Jackson, he's 12th at the moment on the rating, so he's very high. Nick Watson is one, Wally. He's 11th, but he's the only guy in there who's not a midfielder or a ruck. So
Mm.
that's a pretty good effort as well. And then the other guy that I've really noticed he's only played the 8 games this year, but Brent Daniels as well. He's coming hard. If he can keep his
Well,
form up for the rest of the year, he will be a smoky for the All Australian as well.
we saw this 2 years ago, and he made that late run, and he was
Yeah,
in the discussion. So, yeah, interesting. Going to be a lot. We'll dissect plenty of this as the season goes on. We might even do our own All Australian teams. Everyone else seems to, Harrow.
why
We
not?
should do that. We should do that as the season. We don't need to do it. I don't think we need to do a halfway point. We'll just do it a
No.
little bit later in the year. Anyway, all right. Now,
We
let's
could
get on
do
to some
we could
trends.
do a punting All Australian team.
We should have as just a rolling thing, Harrow.
Yeah, yeah. Riley
Like
Sanders
that.
in the guts.
Yeah,
Uh,
Riley Sanders 100% getting picked.
yeah.
So there you go. All right. Do the following trends continue this week, Harrow? A couple of people actually asked about this Port one. Port Adelaide, one of them gives the most to halfbacks and mids the last 4 weeks. Do we think that continues?
So yeah, just having a look at it here, I can get the last 5 weeks as a bit of a sample, and
Nice.
if we're looking at Port versus say like the defender ball user type thing, they're actually about mid-table, but which is a long way up from where they were because they were bottom for that. And so we've seen like Blakey 25. That's only about his going level, but Callum Mills did over the 29, which is really good for him. And we saw Tom McCarthy for West Coast go high. Ollie Florent also go high. So these guys are all going 5 or 6 above their averages. So there are a couple, definitely in the last 3 games there, where they've gone 5 or 6 above their average. It's not like widespread. Like you still saw Bice just get the 18. But if you're picking the right one, then definitely in the guys who are, the
Mm.
defender ball user more area, they're going all right against Port now. Um, the general defenders are still going sort of low. So it's not like it's everybody in the back line's getting a fill, like what we see sort of with sometimes with the doggies or the Saints have been like that in the past. So it's more if you've just been able to pick out the right guy. And I think there is a little bit of a trend to it with those sorts of guys like Mills, McCarthy, Florent. They're all kind of similar, aren't they? So, but they're
Mm.
not well. Certainly in Mills's case, he's not the number one guy. They were able to keep Blakey to 25, which is a little
Yep.
bit below his average. So maybe there's starting to occur there because um, they are now mid-table in the last 5 games where they were bottom for this type of thing,
Yep.
going back just a few
Ab-
weeks.
yeah, absolutely. And look, does that mean you look outside of probably a Dan Houston and look elsewhere? And we can go to that Collingwood game and have a look. But like, would he? Because he'd be their main guy, wouldn't he?
Well, they
Wouldn't he
got
be the one
two.
you'd be trying to stop?
They got Dacos
Sorry.
and Houston. They got Dacos and
Yeah,
Houston. So my thoughts would be one of them will probably go high and the other one won't. Maybe you're going to be guessing. I'm not sure which one will do
might
which,
be
but
hard.
yeah.
All right, Hawks number one to halfbacks in the last 5 weeks. Is that the numbers you're saying?
No, not what I'm seeing there, Wally. They're just above Port, so sort of in the middle of the table as well. But again, this is if you're able to really target the right ones. There are guys going high, and it's more so just the last 3 weeks for Hawthorn. And it is the main guy. So it's like we actually learnt this when we saw Sinclair go high against Hawthorn, which was a bit of a
Yep.
bucking of a trend. Bailey Dale also did the same thing, and the Crows had a couple of guys. So I'd say the last 3 weeks, Hawthorn
Mm,
have been conceding high to these halfbacks, but I'm not certain it's going to be something that continues. So,
no,
and it's not like widespread, like every bloke in the back line's getting
no.
more. It's more those the main guy. So yeah, so maybe like a John Noble this week. Maybe in the past, maybe you would be looking to go under him based on old Hawthorn trends, but just based on the last 3 weeks, you can pretty clearly see that
Mm.
with Dale, these types of guys, Sinclair, and even was it Malira as well? I think Malira had 32. So definitely the main guy in the last 3 weeks versus Hawthorn has been going
Okay.
really well.
Right, and North, one of the most inside mids. Is that what you're saying?
Inside mids v North. Let's have a quick look at that one. So it's trending up from being a really low one. But again, we saw Simpkin try to restrict Reed on the weekend. So they're still
Mm.
trying to keep sides low. Also, you got to remember that they've had Finn O'Sullivan out of the team the last few weeks. And
Yep.
he's a guy who, when he is in the team, they do seem to work a lot better as a midfield in restricting sides. So be a little bit careful with that. But yeah, about mid-table North in the last 5 weeks. But another one where it's like the last 3 weeks are quite high. Like you go Tim Kelly 27, that's 3 above his average. Bolton 3 above his average. Brayshaw 7 above his average. Noah Anderson 4 above his average. Petraka 4 above his average. So the
Mm.
last 4 weeks, it's definitely been a good one against North.
There you go. All right. Now, any trends when it comes to buy rounds? So teams fresh off the buy versus teams 2 weeks after theirs, or teams that have had one versus teams that haven't. The buy rounds are just throw up all sorts of shit because we see different things, don't we? We see some are
Yeah.
performing better off. The second up off the bye, we've seen getting a boost. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, I've seen this over the last few years. The sweet spot is second up off the bye. Um, First up off the bye could go either of three ways. Either, like you can come off a little bit sluggish, you can
Yeah.
come off about normal, or you can come off like a little bit hot. So the first week off the bye is a bit of a guess. Second week off the bye seems to be a good one, and we did see that with the Crows. That was a big part of the reason why we wanted to be on them. We also saw it with Port on the weekend, who covered their line against Sydney and probably were unlucky to not win that, Wally, you'd have to say, wouldn't you? So a
Yeah.
couple of teams there, second up off their buys, really overperforming in the last round just gone.
So just there's only two this week, which are Giants and Richmond.
Okay.
All
Yep.
right. Last one we had through here was in regards to Geelong, and it was: do you think Chris Scott will run a double tag with O'Connor and O'Mullen, and how effective with Mullen? Sorry, how effective would this be? Given we've seen Mullen tagging. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm trying to read through all that. Yeah. Essentially, will Chris Scott run a double tag, which basically means we can lead straight into the first game here, Harro, because this is a question that we'll answer as part of this. And the opening game is Freo versus Geelong. Freo's $1.45. Geelong's $2.78. Freo 14.5 point line at the minus. So the Cats heading over to Perth in what should be a cracking game. A lot of even games this week. I think Hawthorn and Gita and Gold Coast are about 4 or 5 places apart on the ladder, maybe 4 positions apart on the ladder, and that's as big as it gets. Everyone's pretty close.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it should be a good round. Freo, Geelong, Harrow, how are we seeing it?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, if I knew how to read Chris Scott's mind, I'd be probably having more holidays than what I'm having at the moment because yeah, every week it's a bit of a guessing game of what he's going to do, isn't it? And even last week, I found it really hard to position all the Cats players exactly how they were going to line up. So, well, if it was me, I would probably. Look, it's hard because you go. Normally they would go Sarong, I think, with Mullen, but he's first up after having an injury for 3 weeks. So do you tag a guy not knowing? He's a risk just to be a little bit off the pace anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not sure that I would be going there, and that makes it difficult. So I can't really predict exactly what he's going to do. I don't reckon he'll go a double tag, because he doesn't do that all the time anyway. So tricky one. What I do know is that the the Cats here, they actually have a really good record over in Perth and a really good record against Freo. So I think the plus 15.5, I'm probably not going to get involved, but if I had to bet, I would be with the Cats.
Okay.
What I do like, there is a little risk. The Dockers are obviously first up off their bye, and with their really strong ladder position, they can afford to. You do see sides who are really well positioned to either give their players an extra bit of a break and they can come back a little bit sluggish, or they go the other way and go, this is a time to pump some more, miles into the players and we can do a mini preseason throughout the middle of the season. We just don't know what they're going to be up to. So I'd like to see Freo play, well again before backing them. The area I do like here is the over 175.5, and I talked about it last week with the preview for the last week's Cats game. And the fact that last week's Cats game went under doesn't really put me off because there was 50 scoring shots in the game, Wally. And so I don't mind the 177. The 175.5 on the overs here. Player bets, it's a tricky one with the player bets. These two sides can both be restrictive and tactical as well. But there is one guy who gets a pretty good matchup, Wally, and it's Luke Jackson, who you mentioned earlier. The Cats are conceding the fourth most disposals to rucks in the AFL, and he gets a line of 18.5. He got 27 against the Cats back in round one. One guy that I've noticed who's a bit of a up and coming player, sort of emerging, is O'Driscoll. And he's had 27, 22, and 23 his last 3 weeks. And he gets a good matchup here against the Cats, and his line is 18.5. So I'll be happy to play him. Just a couple of guys to be a little bit mindful of is like Matthew Johnson's been going well lately, and he'd be an easy one just to put in a multi to get 15 or to back him again because he's had 20 plus his last 3 games. But just remember, with Sarong returning to the team, they've now got their full midfield with Young there as well, and Johnson probably gets shuffled out of that mix, and
Okay.
and so just avoid him. Um, you could even look to back his unders if you can get a line in the 20s or the low 20s. Bailey Smith's an interesting one here. His line is 30.5, which is low for him. He's been doing that very consistently this season. But, it is against Freo, who are restrictive to mid. So I fancy Bailey Smith will get over this because he just does it most weeks. But just be mindful that, the Freo are not a great matchup for him.
All right, no worries, Harro. Good start, mates. Plenty to like there. We'll move on to the Friday night match, which is Gold Coast Hawthorn. Gold Coast $2.11. Hawthorn go up there as a slight favourite at $1.73. This is up on the coast. The line's 4.5 points. Hawthorn have had a couple of disappointing losses. They came off one of those again when they were in a winning position and gave it up into a bye. So you think they're going to be wanting to get the chockies here. A little bit of an 8-point game like a lot of them are this week because of the positions. Gold Coast, I just don't know what to make of, Harrow. I've said this before. I just don't get it. Like, they've got these. And the other thing is we don't need to sensationalise anything, and it's only mid-season, but Hardwick's complaining a lot in press conferences and doing this, and he's sort of saying things that are a little against the way he's carried himself previously and talking about individual players. And apparently Walter's looking, Humphrey looking, King's looking, and others. Like, I don't know. Is this like just the Gold Coast curse that you try and put a professional sports team on the coast, everything, even when everything sets up that they're going to be great, it just goes to shit? Like, no professional sporting team on Gold Coast has ever won a title.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, I don't know what's going on because they have such a good team. It's stacked with talent. They got a 3-time premiership coach, Harrow. And now's probably not the time to solve it, but I just don't know what's going on there and why they are just turning up and playing like they are.
Too many distractions up on the Gold Coast, isn't there, to be playing footy?
There would be. There would be, Harrow.
But
we wouldn't get the podcast done.
No,
we'd be at one of the many PAVs or surf clubs along the water.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a couple of thoughts on this, and I'm glad you brought it up. Like, I hate it when you start hearing, rumors about, the players and the coaches being disconnected and everything like that. And like last year we saw it with Melbourne, didn't we? All season it was talk that the players don't like footy, this, that, and the other. And now these sorts of things are starting to come out in the Gold Coast. So it's always a bit of a worry that. And yeah, you talk all the players that are talking. I think the issue is here that sometimes it's hard to fit too many star players also together in and you look at that midfield now, Wally, and who would have thought that a midfield of Anderson, Rao, Petraka, and Miller would be 17th for clearances and second against? Like,
yeah, amazing. Just crazy.
Where you get a more workman-like midfield, like say Hawthorn's, where guys have just got roles, with not all star players in there, and they're going at 4th for clearances and 13th against. So I feel like they've just stacked that midfield with too many stars, and a midfield maybe works better when it's got maybe 1 or 2 guns and 3 blokes in, 3 other guys in there just working hard. So that could be a bit of their problem as well. But also, it is always a worry when you start hearing these rumours about the players and the coaches and stuff. And it's interesting, Wally. I'm not saying this has got anything to do with anyone in particular, but last year there was all these leaks coming out of Melbourne with players don't like the coach, rah, rah, rah. That's all stopped now, right? And now the leaks are coming out of Gold Coast. Now, who's gone from Melbourne to Gold Coast? Who's friends with Tom Morris? There's a bit of a link there. So I'm just wondering whether there's someone chatting to journalists at the plays at Gold Coast now, and because the same issue's occurring. So we'll never know,
Huh?
but you know what
No,
I mean?
we won't. We won't. And like it is funny, isn't it? Like Melbourne, I don't know if Melbourne could. I don't know if a club could be turned around as positively as Melbourne has turned around in such a small amount of time.
Yeah,
What Stephen King's doing there is brilliant. Cozzy Pickett has gone from a forward mid to a genuine top 5 midfielder in the comp who kicks goals. He's
yeah,
not a mid forward. He's a bona fide superstar midfielder that hits the scoreboard, which
yeah,
is what we all want at our club. That's all we ever. That's the dream. That's the dream. So yeah, I don't know, mate. It's a bizarre one, but if we dial in on this game,
yeah,
as I said, it's basically a pick 'em.
yeah,
The line is less than a goal. What are
yeah.
we thinking?
Well, yeah, forgetting all of that stuff, we'll just put all that stuff to the side and not even factor it into our thinking behind this game.
No.
Yeah, I said at the start of the year, I'm probably not going to be opposing Gold Coast, especially when they play at home and especially at night. They love these conditions. And so straight away, I'm putting a line through opposing Gold Coast, even though they haven't been great. Also, they
Mm,
had a 40-point loss to the Cats, but if they actually converted their shots and they got the umpiring was maybe a little bit more in the middle, they're probably a lot closer than that 40 points. And we know that we really rate the Cats this year. So perhaps that form line isn't as bad as when you just first look at it and go, a 40-point loss,
mm,
that's terrible. So maybe some signs there for the Suns. Now, what the area that I am happy to play here, Wally, because I'm going to stay out of who's going to win, is we get a line of 182.5 in a night game up on the Gold Coast there, and we've seen over the years that that can be a bit slippery. I've actually got the two teams lining up at about 175 without any tricky conditions. The way these two teams make, and actually they when they played earlier in the year, it did make up at 175. So if you look at the line ladder this year, Wally, which we get every week from our good mate Lee, these two sides are both 8 and 5 on the under this season, and so I'm happy
mm.
to put up a bet, mate, for this one to go under the 182.5. Player wise, Anderson, he's set at 27.5. His last two against the Hawks, 31 and 35. Loves playing at home. Watched him really closely against the Cats. He played really well. He not only got plenty of the ball in his mouth, but he actually kept Smith a little bit lower than as well and put some defensive work in as well as getting the ball. Rail, I reckon Nash not being there's got to suit him. Um, and and I think Rowley we can get over him at 24.5. Ginnivan is the other one, and he's actually set at 20.5, which is a little on the high side for him. He only got 16 against the Suns last time, and the Suns are rated a hard side to get the ball against for that outside midfielder. You could apply the same sort of thinking to Massimo, who's also set at 20.5, if you wanted to go about it that way, Wally.
Very good, Harrow. All right, we'll move on to Saturday's games. First up, Harrow, we've got Adelaide, Melbourne. This is a tricky assignment for Melbourne going over there because Adelaide have now launched. You called this probably a month ago where you said, look, their fixture opens up in the second half of the year. All the talk from Nix was about getting their team right at the right part of the season. And
Yeah.
they're in good nick here. They're in the finals picture. They've already banked wins. And they now they've got a really, really favourable draw. This is not easy by any means, but they
Yeah.
are at home and they're flying. They're $1.40. Melbourne's $2.97. The line's 3 goals. That's 17.5, Harrow. Do you think the Crows train will keep on chugging
Yeah,
this
I
week?
do. I do, mate. As you said, I am keen to continue to follow the Crows. Just all the signs are that they're hitting form right now. And you look at what their best form was last year. It was a high level, and so I'm happy to back them, mate. Yeah, yeah, to win this by 3 goals. They're not really missing anything with Rankin returning.
Mm.
Um, and nothing against the D's, but I think the Crows at home is now starting to look like one of the more formidable maybe games for sides that have to go and try and win. I also like the over 177.5 here, Wally. We went over the first half total in the D's game on the weekend, with rain coming in the second half. And over total points has been a good play like all year in these games. And this is going to be good conditions in a day game, Adelaide Oval. There's no reason why it shouldn't be high scoring. Um, Also, without putting up any sort of individual players, this looks like a really good game to be backing Crows players for disposals. Um, since their form's come good, they've gone now to being a top 5 disposal team in the comp in the last 5 weeks, and the D's have been conceding high disposals all year. And so, yeah, and there's not really an exact position that you could target. Like the D's just concede kind of high
Mm.
all over the field. So you definitely be targeting Crows players for your disposal bets, punters.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And look, we spoke about Dawson earlier and how well he's
Mm,
going, but that Adelaide back line, forget the names in it. They just operate so well,
yeah,
and they share it around. What I will say this is that I've noticed because I've played in this space a little bit. Don't always go too wide with your defenders though, because I feel like Malira, Laird, Worrell, even McElhaney, like what is three of them might hit and one might miss. So
mm,
just maybe playing some combos in those spaces because I feel like one always misses out. They all feed, and then one seems to just miss. Whoever the runt of the litter, for lack of a better term, is
yeah,
that week, Harrow, seems to miss. And it could be any of them,
yeah,
but they are very impressive. Let's not forget that Isaac Rankin comes back into this team
yeah,
and look at the way they played and what he does now that because Rochelle's playing forward
yeah,
and dangerously,
mm,
and you'd think Tex would come back in for Murray, like it's.
yeah,
And the other thing is, I like Dilthorpe is going in and doing the rucking. I reckon he's good at that second
yeah,
ruck role.
yeah, definitely.
So there's a lot to like about Adelaide. Um, And I think that there's also been a lot to like about their coach and how he's carried himself in the media this year, Harrow.
Yep.
I think
No,
that it's just, I don't know about, there's a feeling about them, isn't there?
yeah. No, they're
Yeah.
building, mate, and I think that they're going to be. I'd be happy to have some money on them to win the flag. Doesn't mean they're going to win it, but they could be their grand final day. The other thing, Wally, we did see on a few occasions this year, the D's can small forwards can kick goals against the D's. We saw Roses kick a bunch of them against for Sydney against the D's.
Yep.
And so it could be with Rankin back, especially, like Rochelle will be playing deeper forward, and Pedlar also being out. I do like Rochelle's goals here. I haven't seen what his odds are, but he's a good chance in this one just from a matchup point of view.
All right. Love that. We'll definitely be exploring that option. Uh, Depending on the odds, might have been a ladder there,
Yeah,
Harrow. Okay,
could be.
GWS against your baggers. GWS are $1.41. Carlton, 2.93. They went bang, 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 bang. Had a week off. They are Carlton are back. We know that. This is a great assignment. GWS have looked pretty good. They were good against the Saints, even though they didn't quite win. St Kilda were really good in that. That was a great win. So this 16.5 point line, I think that this is a great game for the baggers to actually see where they're at. And I think that if they can win this, why can't they make a run to the wild card if they want to? Because they've still got to walk. Like there is the whole Cody Walker piece as well. Let's
Yeah,
be honest, that's a real thing. But if they lose this, you think, okay, that's it. I feel like this is their sliding doors crossroads moment where
yeah,
if they win, maybe they make a run. If they lose, they just go and pick up a nice high draft pick. Do you agree?
yeah. I look, if they do win this, it does set them up, but I don't have faith in them that they're going to be able to. Two teams here that it is hard to have faith in either one of them. Actually, I do feel like the
Mm.
Giants have slightly better team on paper, and they're playing at home, and they do have a few guys back now. I think the Giants, are they second up off the bye this week, Wally? Did you say that
Yep.
before? Yeah,
Giants and Richmond are the two.
yeah. And so I feel like the Giants are. Look, I'd rather be on the Giants than the Blues here. Put it that way. the one area I do quite like in this one is the total points is set high at 186.5. And just it's more about Carlton this one because they've played in good conditions in every game under their new coach, and their games have made up at 136, 150, 172, and 139. So all coming up well short of this 186.5. When you look at it from the Giants' point of view, they kind of mix it up whether they go under or over this type of line. So um, under the total points, I think the Giants will win, but I'm not that confident to back them at the line because I don't think there's that big of a gap between the two teams. I mentioned Brett Daniels before, or Brett Daniels. He's now basically playing like a full time mid, and we saw him have 31 against the Saints. I don't like Carlton struggle with these really nippy type guys. Like he's, I'm not saying he's like Cozzy Pickett, but he's fast, around the packs and whatnot. And his line's 22.5, and if you view him as a full time mid, I feel like that's not a bad area. Ashton Whitfield, mate, this is an interesting one because we talked earlier about like some sides conceding, to these halfbacks. That Carlton actually have only conceded. So both these boys are set at 30.5 their line. Carlton have only conceded over 30 once for the whole season to this type of player, and it was Bailey Dale who got the 31. You can go through some of the names of players who played in this position, and it's like Roberts got 22, Holmes 25, Sinclair 29, Clark 25, Dacos 26, Zorko 19. They're all kind of the same type of player, and they're all kind of going low. So that could be whether you want to take both of them on or pick one of them who you think might go under. That's a position you want to be avoiding, and normally both sides do this as well. So when both sides are restricting to backs, it just means that more possessions go to midfielders, basically, at the end of the day.
Yep.
And so I think both teams' midfields could go pretty well. We've already got Daniels, but also like Callahan here at 27.5. It's not a very high number for him. He's a really good accumulator, and he's been over that 5 of his last 6 games. So with the Giants on the up and at home, happy to play those guys, mate.
One for the Ashton Whitfield one, Harrow, which we've sort of sought out a couple of times, and we've put a couple of these in Discord the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
is finding a book that gives alternate over/under disposal lines, and if you can find that, then taking an inflated. So for that, Ashton Whitfield to have them both say under 32.5, which Carlton has never let in the entire season. No one has been allowed above that figure. Multi them up, and you're probably getting $2.50 or something. So that's just another option there as well to have a look at.
Love that.
All right, Collingwood, Port Adelaide. This is an interesting one for me. Collingwood $1.45. Port on expected scoring in the ladder, they'd be like on the verge of top 4. You know that? It's insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like what they would be doing. And they would be absolutely flying. The line's 13.5 points. Obviously, it's at the G. Very interested in this one. And as I said, the total over-unders is still really low.
Yeah, we didn't get that reaction that we were hoping for, and because this is a bit of a dream matchup for the unders. And we saw like the Pies last game they played against the Ds, who the Ds are a very high combined scoring team. It made up just the 158, so the Pies were able to, turn that game low scoring. But it's not what they've been doing all year, the Pies. So it's not as clear as what it would have been last year, where the Pies were just a bulk unders team. The Port pretty much have been a bulk unders team, but with a line of 163.5, I'm probably thinking that, well played to the bookies. They've set it, roughly maybe where I would have set it. Force a bet, still laying under. Also, Port getting a 15-point start. We saw them just have a 3-point loss to the Swans, who we really rate. They probably should have won that. So I'd be happy to have a little bet on Port getting a start. It's not our best bet or anything like that, but just a bit of a lean there. Last week we tipped up Joey Richards. This is a little bit like the Brett Daniels one. He's like a high half forward, now moved into the midfield, seeing a big bump in disposals. and now he gets a opposition who concede the most disposals in the AFL. He got 23 last week. His line's 20.5, and so I'd be happy to follow up with Joey Richards, who's going really well. Butters is the other one here, mate. 29.5. He's been tagged week in, week out for the last 3 weeks. He still gets to 27 when he's tagged, and he gets a line of 29.5 here. I don't really think Collingwood have got the type of play to go with him. They could try Ed Allen. Last time they tried that, because he brained him. So I don't think they'll try that again. They'll probably just try and get him and Dacos going head to head. And so Butters to get 30, I'm happy to be playing that as well, mate.
Yep, very good, mate. All right, we'll move on to Sunday. We've got a couple of games on Sunday. The first one of those is Richmond, North Melbourne. It's been a battle of the spoon sort of game the last few years, but I think Essendon's doing their best to get that. Richmond's $3.08, North Melbourne's $1.38. The line's 17.5. Richmond's the other team, as we said, second up off the bye.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually really impressed with the Tigers on the weekend against the Lions. They didn't give up. They didn't make it an easy win for the Lions, and I was happy that I didn't take. It would have been so easy to look at that and go, "Oh, the Lions are going to smash Richmond." Like, you just look at the two teams on paper. The Lions, they just don't have a record of putting these lower sides away, and so Richmond actually covered the line there as well. So, and they look pretty good. The area we really want to be playing in this one, Wally, is it's the midfielders against Richmond, and we did that on the weekend. That we saw Ashcroft. He got his 34, I think he got, and way over his line. We were able to back him at $3.40 to get 30. We get LDU, who's actually coming off a tag here. We love playing blokes off a tag. His line's 25.5. His last four against the Tigers, 26, 40, 27, and 33. So happy to play him. Wardlaw also, his line's 19.5. Not many midfielders go under 20 against the Tigers. I know he has low time on ground. He's a bit of a burst player, but still happy to play that. Also, the total points ball at 177.5. That's a potential overs bet as well. You look at Richmond, they're not playing negative anymore. If you look at their last sort of 8 weeks, I think there's only one game in there where they played that negative style. And I'd be happy to back that as well.
All right, very good, mate. The last game of the round, Harro. We head under the lid again. St Kilda Western Bulldogs. Well, this is a picking game, basically. $1.87 Saints, $1.96 Dogs, lines 1.5. Right. I mean, you just basically be able to get even money on the exchange for either of these two teams.
Yeah.
Saints are looking all right. Dogs were looking amazing. And then the same thing happened that we see every year. At some point, they're going to look like a team that can challenge for the flag. And then at another point, it's like, oh, what are they missing? What are they lacking? Yeah. Hey, by the way, how good's Liam Ryan going?
Amazing.
Mate, you got 4 guys you pay on the books from 1.7 down to probably 600 or something. Liam Ryan, the one that you paid the least amount and given the least up for, looks like the best recruit at this stage, but long time to go. Anyway, mate, how's this unfold?
Mate, this is going to be a belter, I reckon. Good luck picking the winner, because like the way I looked at it, I just have these two teams so closely aligned. Like, it's very, very difficult to pick a winner, and I think it's just going to be a great game to finish the round with, Wally. So a little bit like the Giants Saints last week, and I don't really tip up this type of bet very often, but the either team under 24.5, or that sort of, you can get your under 19.5, you get a bit more odds. It kind of lines up really well for them when you can't separate two teams based on form, or even based on how they look on paper. That's the sort of areas I'd like to probably play. The total points line is really high, 185.5, and I've seen these high stakes games often just that shaves a few points off when they're these really high stakes games. So perhaps under there. Now, we know the Dogs, they don't tag, do they? And so Naz is the obvious one. I mean, when he gets tagged, Naz goes close to getting 30, and his line's 30 here. His last 4 games are all over 30, so I'll be happy to back Naz. Just a word of warning on the Bont. Last time he played the Saints, he was kept to just 14 disposals, which is about the lowest you're ever going to see for the Bont. So look, you could probably play his unders based on that, because obviously it was probably Windhager. I can't remember the game exactly, but guessing Windhager's done a job there, and if he's able to keep the Bont to 14, and they're going to be doing that again, it will be a bit of a tactical game as well. Down the other end, we know if the Saints are restricting midfields, they're going high in the back line, and Bailey Dale gets a really good matchup here, Wally. So I'd be happy to look at Bailey Dale's over. I think his line's about 26.5. So the disposal should be good. Maybe something on the under total points, and just backing a game with a close result to finish the round off, mate, would be the way to go.
Very good, mate. Love this. All right, as we do, mate, end of the show. Before we sign off, we're going to need your best bet, Harro.
Actually, there's a lot of bets that came up this week, and it was hard to choose a best one. There's a lot of kind of good bets, but couldn't. The one, and normally there's one that I already know before the show, it's going to be this bet. But what I am going to put up as the best this week is the over 177.5 in the Crows versus D's. Over total points in D's games has been really good to us this year, and no reason to think this one won't be as well.
All right, mate. Love that. All right, Harro, you've been great as always, mate. We're going to let you get back to the beach there. You got precious work you got to do over there in Bali. There's bintangs. They're not going to drink themselves, mate. You get stuck into them, and we'll see you next week.
All the best, punters.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.